अस्सलाम वालेकुम, क्या हाल है बच्चों, कैसे हैं? ठीक है, बड़े चुप चुप रहते हैं आप लोग। वैसे मेरी ऑनलाइन क्लासेस में बच्चों को मैं चुप रहने नहीं देता, कम से कम कुछ थोड़ा बहुत यस नो हाँ ना ठीक हूँ, आई मीन इट्स ऑलवेज गुड। क्या ख्याल है बच्चों? अच्छा ख्याल है कि आप लोग, आई मीन ऑल ऑफ यू, मेजॉरिटी ऑफ यू नो योरसेल्व्स, सो व्हाट्स द पॉइंट ऑफ बीइंग शाय? चलें, बच्चों क्विकली बिफोर आई बिगिन, कैन आई हैव अ वेरी क्विक फीडबैक? क्या आपको लगता है कि मेरी स्पीड बहुत ज़्यादा है या फिर कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रही या कुछ इंप्रूवमेंट होनी चाहिए? आई मीन कंस्ट्रक्टिव फीडबैक इज ऑलवेज वेलकम। क्या ख्याल है बच्चों? व्हाट डू यू थिंक?
नहीं सर, परफेक्ट है।
तो ठीक है,
स्पीड तो ठीक है, इंशाल्लाह इससे ज़्यादा स्पीड नहीं होगी। ऑफ कोर्स अभी सिंस देयर वी आर ओनली ऑन द फर्स्ट टॉपिक, सो थिंग्स आर वेरी इजी। इंशाल्लाह दे विल रिमेन इजी। आप जिस तरह मुझे लगता है, इंशाल्लाह होपफुली I think I will be able to get rid of even the second topic today. I mean, diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. आपको खुद पता है इसमें कोई बहुत, yes, it's very technical and important, but again, it's very small topic, inshallah. The only advice I want to give you is, जिस तरह आपके सेशंस होते जा रहे हैं, you have to ensure कि आपकी रिविजन और आपकी नोट टेकिंग is very up to the mark. I mean, you have to make it a point to either update your notes or make them properly, whatever the case is. Okay, इसको करेंगे इंशाल्लाह, तो I mean nothing should be difficult for your May June 21 exams inshallah. चलें जी, so let's begin. It's already 8:04. चलें जी, मैं जरा अपनी स्क्रीन शेयर कर लूं, my OneNote. Okay, चलें जी, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। So आज हम अपने न्यू सेक्शन को लेबल करते हैं. We rename this, so this is diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. ठीक है जी, चलें जी, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. Okay, so inshallah we will directly begin with the very basic definitions that we will talk about. Or for the definitions, but I will actually give you definition in points. I know that's usually that's quite rare to have definitions in points. Lekin the reason I will do this is because exam perspective say tends to get easier for you to remember, because in these definitions, even if you are in the exam, you're asked explanations, they will, like for example, हम osmosis की बात करेंगे. So there are always these three things that the examiner will always be hunting for in your exam. So anyhow, let's directly jump into our first topic, which is diffusion. Bismillah. चलें जी. So diffusion, just to give you a very not a rough but a very clear idea. So let's begin with a picture. Of course, everybody knows that traditional example of diffusion, which is कि अगर आप perfume को एक कमरे के कोने में करते हैं, so you know it spreads and all of what that basically diffusion is all about. Okay, but in our case, the example that we will be looking at. So let me give you that simple example first. So this is that non-biological example, if you like, of diffusion. In which you can clearly see that the crystals of potassium manganate 7 are basically moving. And by the way, we all of us know that if you're talking about solids, if you're talking about liquids, and even if you're talking about gases, all of them are moving. Okay, even solids, their atoms, their molecules, they vibrate about their fixed position, and that is because of an energy that they possess. Can anybody tell me what the name of that energy is? They have kinetic energy, which is an inherent energy that causes them to move. Okay, now the context that we need to understand is the living biological context, which is given in this picture. Okay, and clearly let's look at this picture and try and make sense what this picture is basically telling all about. So you know these blue dots that you can see bacho, on the screen is representing oxygen molecules, as you can see here. और आप देख रहे हैं कि after some time, so this is before diffusion, the above diagram is before diffusion, and after diffusion you can clearly see that something has happened, okay? And what exactly that has happened, let's just first talk about what diffusion is, and then inshallah I'm going to come back to these diagrams. So let me write diffusion, and let me put a bubble around this diffusion. Okay, so the first thing, bachcho, that you need to know about diffusion is that it is the movement of molecules. Movement of molecules. Okay, it's the movement of molecules. Number two, from higher concentration to lower concentration. Okay, and this is a passive process. Passive process का क्या मतलब है? Passive process means that this does not require energy. So I have to qualify this with this explanation. So just writing that it's a passive process, excuse me, will not suffice. So I will say it does not require energy. So these are the 3 points that you need to mention always when you're talking about diffusion. Now, I need to consider point 2 once again. I can, instead of writing from higher to lower, there's another statement that I can write. Can anybody help me with that? Hanji Shabash, bataye zara. What's the other statement?
The concentration gradient.
Excellent. It's down the concentration gradient. अच्छा जी, इसको समझने की कोशिश करते हैं. Concentration gradient का क्या मतलब है? You know the word gradient, so I'm going to use this side of this area, to the left side of this to explain. Balki, let me use this side. You know the word gradient means, literally it means slope. And if I were to draw a slope, it would literally look something like this. So a slope, agar main iske regions ko identify karu, there is this low region of the slope, and then there is this high region of the slope. And if I were to say that there is a ball rolling down the slope, then I would say that the ball is moving from the high region of the slope to the low region of the slope. Okay? So similarly, if we were to depict this idea in terms of the number of molecules, for example, तो अगर मैं आपको यहाँ पे ये देखें, let me identify different regions in the diagram that I've given. Let's say this is region A, and then this is region B in the first diagram. Now, in the region A, there is high concentration of oxygen molecules. Okay, and in region B, there is low concentration of oxygen molecules. Okay, now there is clearly a slope, if you like, or there is clearly a gradient, if you like, between regions A and B. So if I were to depict region A on my slope, I would label this as the high region and this as the low region. और इसमें ना एक misconception है, बच्चे अक्सर समझते हैं that the molecules, for example, if I'm spraying at one end of the room and there are a lot of spray molecules, and so let's suppose that's again region A, and then maybe this is region B. So they will move from a region of their high concentration to the region of their low concentration in this direction. बच्चे समझते हैं कि वो ऊपर से नीचे जाएंगे. No, you know, going from top to bottom is just depicting that they're going from high region of the slope to the lower region. Okay, you understand the potential confusion that students usually have. The molecules, they will move from the region of their high concentration to the region of their low concentration, not necessarily from a high place, from a height to a lower side. You understand what I'm saying? This is important to differentiate. But does everybody understand this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right. अच्छा जी. So now, you know, इस चीज के लिए 2 गलत words भी हैं. मैं बार-बार बच्चों को ये बताता हूँ, which are not to be used. If I use the word instead of, so down is the correct word. If I use the word across, or if I use the word along, then both of them are incorrect. down is the correct usage. Why is across and along incorrect? Well, because if I'm using the word across, that can either mean high to low or also mean low to high. So since they are depicting both of these meanings, इसलिए मैं कभी भी across the concentration gradient या along the concentration gradient use नहीं करूँगा. So when I say, if I were to redefine diffusion in a sentence, then it will be the following. I want you to listen to me what I say very carefully and then tell me if you understand this. Diffusion is the movement of molecules down their concentration gradient. As simple as that. So you can clearly see that the molecules are moving down their concentration gradient. आपने अगर ये नहीं लिखना तो आप ये भी लिख सकते हैं from higher concentration to lower concentration, but you need to understand this as a concept, what down the concentration gradient means. So I want you to look at the second picture now, which is after diffusion, this picture. Are the molecules moving in this picture? Are they moving? Come on, tell me yes or no.
No, I'm guessing.
No, they're moving.
My bad.
But there is no net movement. Net movement का क्या मतलब है? Net movement का मतलब है that you can clearly see that region B and region A now have similar concentrations. They will be moving from A to B, but it won't make a difference in concentrations. यानी कि if there were to be a net movement, then maybe B would get higher in concentration or A would get higher in concentration. That is not the case. Okay, so this is what I mean when I say there is no net movement. ठीक है जी? So if you want me to redefine diffusion in words, then it is movement of molecules down their concentration gradient, and this is a passive process, of course, which I have to write that no energy required. और एग्जाम में जब आप इसकी एग्जांपल लिखेंगे तो प्लीज परफ्यूम वाली एग्जांपल नहीं लिखनी. इसकी एग्जांपल इज वेरी सिंपल, either oxygen diffusing inside the cell or simply carbon dioxide diffusing out of the cell, diffusing out of the cell. ठीक है? This is what diffusion is all about. Okay, all right, good. ठीक है जी बच्चों, any questions so far? I hope everybody understands the stuff about diffusion. Yes, come on, give me a go ahead so that I may go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, great. चलें जी, अगली बात बच्चों हम करेंगे osmosis. Now again, I'm gonna bubble osmosis again, and then बल्कि काम करते हैं. Let me give you a picture of osmosis again. Then inshallah I will go ahead and explain. So let me quickly give you a picture. There you go. That's the picture. A lovely picture. चलिए जी, इस पिक्चर को करते हैं जरा साइड पे ताकि हमारे पास जगह हो लिखने की अच्छी सी. Okay, great. So let's talk about the definition first. So osmosis. How many points essentially do we need to know about osmosis when we're defining osmosis? Well, let me write them first, and then I want you to rewrite them. So first, it is diffusion of water molecules. So yes, it is osmosis is nothing but diffusion, but it is diffusion of water molecules. Of course, there are other conditions also that we'll talk about. Number 2, down there. हाँ जी, क्या लिखूं? Concentration gradient लिख दूं? This looks good, but it's better that you write the word down there, water potential gradient. याद रखें, whenever we are talking about osmosis, it is good to use this word water potential rather than concentration gradient. Okay? It's not incorrect to use concentration gradient, lekin water potential is more good and concentration gradient is okay. Okay? I would really encourage that you use the word concentration gradient. So number one, osmosis is the movement of water molecules down their water potential gradient. Of course, इसको हम इस तरह भी लिख सकते हैं from higher water potential to lower water potential. Third condition, very important, through through what? Through a semi-permeable, semi or partially permeable membrane. Permeable membrane. ठीक है जी? That's the third important condition. And of course, in terms of, again, it's a passive process, which means it does not require energy. Okay. So these are, again, the four important points that you need to know about osmosis. Let's look at the diagram and let's make sense. So you have two compartments. Compartment A is water solution, which only has water molecules, as you can see. And maybe the second compartment is actually representing the cell, which has water molecules. But in addition to water molecules, it also has these guys, which is a solute. And in our case, this solute is sucrose. Okay. By the way, I hope you people know what is a solvent and what is a solute. Solvent is something that allows solute to dissolve, and solute dissolves in solvent. Let me give you an example. Sugar and water. Bacho, tell me, which one is the solvent?
Water.
And sugar is the solute. Okay, so remember from that example. Now, I want you to look at this diagram. In between the water solution and the cell, you can clearly see that there is a partially permeable membrane. What do I mean when I say partially permeable membrane? What that means is that there is this membrane which has small pores, as you can see, and the size of the pores is as such that the water molecules, they can move through those pores, but the sucrose is actually quite big in size, and it is bigger than the holes of the semi-permeable membrane itself. So what naturally follows this? Do you think sucrose can cross these holes? Well, no, it cannot. Naturally, it cannot. Now, I want you to look at the diagram and then tell me which region, the blue region or the kya color hai, pink hai? Yeah, the pink color. Which one has higher water potential?
Blue.
Shabash. The blue has higher water potential. या फिर हम ये भी कह सकते हैं higher water concentration, but since I said it's good that you use the word. And of course, this area has low water potential. Okay. So the direction of the gradient is, is what? Is it from water solution to the cell, or is it from the cell to the water solution? What do you think? So is it arrow X or is it arrow Y?
X.
Shabash. That's because, as you can clearly see, there are more here. So they will diffuse from a region of higher to a lower, and that is, and eventually they will equal out. Okay. So this is basically what osmosis is supposed to be all about. Acha, aap is cheez pe, I want you to focus on this thing that I've written at the bottom. This thing, net overall movement of the water molecules into the cell. Yani ki once both of them even out, even then the water molecules will be able to move from left to right and right to left, but there will be no net change. Okay, the concentration will be equal on both sides. So to summarize, you can use these three things. The fourth thing, this is an added thing, but in any explanation of osmosis, you have to ensure that you do mention the following. It involves water molecules down their water potential gradient through a semi-permeable membrane. The examiner will hunt for these three things whenever osmosis is being talked about. Let me quickly give you another picture that is explaining this idea slightly more, so that you can, be clear on this. So, okay, let me give you this picture. Okay. So as you can clearly see, you have solution 1 and solution 2. And then ye jo choti red cheese hai, these are water molecules. You can clearly see that this is an area which marks high concentration area, and that's low concentration area. So therefore, it should move something like this. So let me give you what happens after some time. This is basically what is going to happen after some time. Let me make this bigger again. Yep, this is what's going to happen. Okay, so the water molecules will eventually diffuse into this direction. As you can see, they've written like this. Okay. So that's basically all what osmosis is about. Of course, we will practice questions that will make it further clear for us what this is. So do you want me to write down a sentence of osmosis definition? मेरे ख्याल से मैं लिख देता हूँ. Spoon feeding की हमें काफी आदत है. अच्छी बात है, कोई बात नहीं, होनी चाहिए. So if I were to define osmosis again, then it is diffusion of water molecules down their concentration, down their water potential gradient, water potential gradient through a semi-permeable. ठीक हो गया बच्चों? Of course, it's a passive process, which means it does not require energy. ठीक है बच्चों? Are we good? Great. चलें जी, ये तो हो गई जी बात osmosis की. चलें जी, अब अगली बात पे आते हैं. Of course, osmosis की there is slight more detail about plasmolysis and all of that. Inshallah, we will talk about that. But let's just first get rid of all of the definitions. So let me use the traditional black color for active transport. Okay, so active transport kya hai? Can anybody tell me? Chale, let me pick and choose today. I hope you won't mind. Haika, जरा हमें आप बताएंगी please active transport क्या है? If you don't mind, quickly. Yes, Haika, can you please tell us what active transport is? It's okay if you don't know what that is. I mean, tell us anything you know about it. Ji, any other would like to comment? Ji, hi, yes, Niaz, go ahead.
Well, I think it's the transport of molecules, but it's active, meaning it needs energy.
Okay, yeah, that's not incorrect. That's correct, but that's an incomplete answer. But again, I'm glad that what you mentioned is so far so good. Dekhiye, now again, by the way, I forgot to give you the example of osmosis. Iski jo example hai, let me fit that here. So the example of osmosis is absorption of water by root hair cells. Absorption of water by root hair cells. Okay. Acha ji. So active transport. Again, I have this picture for you. Let me move it to the right hand side. I will talk about this picture just in a moment, but let's see what actually active transport is. Again, I will bubble that in the middle. Active transport. And then let's talk about all of the points that we need to know as far as the explanation is concerned or the definition. The first thing, Bacho, that you need to understand is that it is usually the movement of ions. Movement of ions, not necessarily just molecules. That's important. Okay, so it's the movement of ions through, so it can either be in or out of cells. Number two, through, this is a very important point, through a living cell membrane. It cannot happen if the cell is not living. Cell membrane. Number three, against the concentration gradient. Against the concentration gradient. So what do I mean when I say this, against the concentration gradient? Well, that means that it's actually the molecules are moving from a region of low concentration to a region of high concentration, which is actually against the norm. Therefore, the fourth point is that it requires energy. It's an active process. Requires energy. It's an active process. Okay, it requires an energy, of course, which is released during the process of, come on, tell me, released during, what's the name of the process? Respiration. Okay, so these are the four things, if you like, that you need to know about active transport. Okay, now look at the diagram. ये जो आपको detail में चीज नजर आ रही है, all of these purple thingies and all of this crazy thingy, this thingy, you don't need to go into these details. Like, just to have an idea, you know, there are these things in the cell membrane. Inshallah, if you happen to study A levels biology, you will go into these details. But these are known as carrier molecules. These are protein molecules through which you know, active transport happens. These protein molecules are embedded within the cell membrane. Of course, आपके लिए this idea is kind of absurd because, you know, when you were doing cells, you literally saw the cell just like the following. I mean, the cell membrane was just like this line. So, I mean, you know, it's just like this line. So it looks kind of strange to you that I'm saying that this is this entire thing that I'm highlighting. एक second, मैं इसको highlight करता हूँ. ये पूरी चीज जिसको मैं highlight कर रहा हूँ yellow, all of this is the cell membrane. Well, yes, that's a magnified version, the detail of which you don't need to go into. But the point is, let's see what the direction of the movement is shown. The direction is from the inside of the cell to the outside. Okay. Sorry, that's not the direction of the movement. That's basically the direction of the concentration gradient. Bahir concentration low hai, under concentration high hai. Now, apparently the molecules or the ions should be moving from high to low, but they are moving through this channel protein, sorry, through this carrier protein, which is in the membrane from the low region to the high region. So that's the direction of the movement. And since you can see the concentration gradient key direction is this, as you can see in the arrow, and the movement is in the opposite. So therefore, we say that the movement is against the concentration gradient. Does that make sense? Bachcho, does that make sense?
Yes.
I hope. Okay. Challenge. We are 30 minutes into our lesson. Let's take our traditional 1-minute break. I'm ending the session. I want you to rejoin in a minute. Jai pani shani pi ke aaye, take some stretches and just get up and go and leave the place and then come back quickly. Okay. Make sure it's not more than 1 minute. I'm ending the session. Please rejoin.